Hello, everybody. Here we are at the presentation on why we eat what we eat today. Let's learn about the history of our food. I'd like to proceed by thanking my colleague Carolina Molina for inviting me to do this short presentation slash recording. And my name is Luis Flores, and I am an affiliate assistant professor at the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources in Michigan State University in the Department of Community Sustainability. I don't want to spend much time on some of these graphs, but I will tell you the importance of reflecting back into the last 200,000 years. Where did we come from? What is the archaeological evidence? What is the genetic evidence that can tell us how we moved from one side to another? And what foods, what traditions, what utensils, what tools we brought with us? This is fascinating to me. And not just because I am an agronomist and I like to know about all of these things, but because food is an ever-present issue in ourselves at the table 3 times a day, as well as in securing food security and nutrition for those who have less than us. So without further ado, I just want to show you this other map where you will see the different thousands of years that it took certain important mass migrations to take place. What one that speaks a lot to me and to Carolina, because we are both born and raised in Guatemala, was to realize that it's been 16,000 years since our ancestors crossed the Bering Strait during the last ice age and populated the American continent. What traditions they brought from Asia, we don't know, but it's just exciting to see that thanks to the technology we have today, we have the means to trace when these things took place. And before the invention of agriculture, how did we survive? Well, we were hunters and gatherers. And as you can read, we have spent most of these last 200,000 years being hunters and gatherers, um, more than we have had agriculture, and we created groups of families, villages, small towns, big towns, cities, chiefdoms, kingdoms, nations, etc. Um, Being a hunter or gatherer simply meant we had to move from one place to another. We had to hunt our meat, gather berries, nuts, foliage, fruits, vegetables, roots, anything that our families could eat to survive, and most probably moved from one place to another during their seasons as we advanced. It was until agriculture was invented some 10,000 years ago that we afforded the food we needed to stay in one place. And that's how we gave birth to villages, towns, cities, etc. And the origin of agriculture is often referred to the Fertile Crescent, and that is the area between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers in Mesopotamia, or today's Iraq, and all these areas that you can see on the upper picture here. Um, Later on, we can see that the evidence tells us some 8,500 years ago, it was Asia that domesticated rice. And much later, some 1,500 years ago, it was the Mayans who domesticated corn, one of the most planted products on the planet today. So I don't mean to spend a lot of time on this, but I do encourage you to find the books, the articles that can give you a full account on how these things took place. And why is that important? That era is known as the Neolithic Revolution. It gave us crop cultivation and animal domestication and with that, the origin to towns, cities, chiefdoms, kingdoms, etc. Once we were able to sustain numbers of people in the same place, we were able to settle and we were able to organize our society pretty much as we know it until today. When did modern globalization really start? And why do I jump to this so quickly? Because globalization has been a very common term in the last 40 to 50 years. However, we have been calling it globalization without knowing when it really started. The consensus from most sources would be 1492 because that's the last continent discovered, the Americas. And that's when the world became truly global, when we were able to circumvent the globe and trade back and forth a number of goods, including mining products, as well as fruits, vegetables, cereals, etc. But also the exchange of a lot of skills, knowledge, tools, etc. So if we situate ourselves on the migration before the 1500s and how migration changed 500 years ago until now, we can see how the Americas are part of that map at an accelerated pace everywhere. And with the advent of better technology to ship, whether by sea, whether by land, or by air, we've had more traders, growing population that has literally hit the 7 billion mark, and more demand for food, diversity, as well as volume. So, case in point, the accelerated exchange of fruits and vegetables in the last few centuries and the last few decades is explained by this advent of technologies to ship. And we go to supermarkets and we don't really realize that before our eyes, we have products that originated from over 20, 25 countries or regions. And if we look closely at the label, it's very possible that on our very plate at dinner time, we have products that came from at least 6, 7, 8, or even more countries. That is the beauty of living in today's times, thanks to this globalization of food trade. And I focus on fruits and vegetables more than meats because the diversity of fruits and vegetables is really mind-blowing in terms of numbers. And I don't have a long time to talk about many things, but I will say this. When you ask yourselves, where is this from? Where did this come from? I hope that this presentation will motivate you into looking more into where those products came from. Artichokes and arugula from the Mediterranean area. Lettuce, asparagus, again, right there in the map, all the way from the steppe over here, walking this way in the same direction. European areas were populated some 8 to 9,000 years ago. Roots, uh, where did they come from, right? Chard started as a leaf, but now we also eat the root, which is radish. Cabbage, broccoli, and even though you know broccoli is green, its close cousin, cauliflower, which is white, was developed in Cyprus. Kale and collard greens. Look at where they come from. And for those of you who have seen or visited this part of the world, is a region that still eats a lot of leafy greens. The direction of that migration followed the path in many situations of the Silk Road, in many situations the path that the Indian origin of many of the languages we speak today also followed back in the day when Proto-Indo-European languages were spoken. Afghanistan is a great source of onions and carrots from a genetic pool standpoint. And later on, I'll show you that they are also the origin for delicious fruits we don't even realize they came from there originally. Spinach, radish, A long list of Asian vegetables many of us just started eating about 10 or 15 years ago, such as bok choy, some elongated eggplants, and a number of other things I don't remember even how to name, but they are very delicious. Nightshade, okra, and cowpea are coming from Africa. And when we look at the origin of other things so important in our daily diet, such as corn, that would be southern Mexico and northern Central America. When we look at the three sisters of the nutrition of this area, beans, pumpkins, and corn, that's the area we're referring to. Sweet potatoes from this area as well. Potatoes, the beloved potatoes. We owe that to the Andean region. And so on and so forth. If we look at fruits, you will see, if in case you didn't know, figs, grapes, apricots, pomegranates, they all come from this area of the world. Tamarind, even though it's a fruit name in Arabic to mean tamar, date, and in India, the date of India, the actual origin is this fertile tropical area of Africa. Squash, pumpkin, peppers, all of that from Central America. Tomato, tamarillo, tree tomato, golden berries from South America. Pineapple, passion fruit from the Amazonian area in South America. Apples, pears, and peaches from this area of the world, and so on and so forth. I could talk to you all day, but I'm not gonna let you go without telling you that my favorite fruit is mango, and we owe that to India for the wonderful contribution to the world in making mango such a popular world fruit. So I'm almost at the end of my presentation, and what I want to tell you is this. French potato fries, right? If we don't research, we will think that maybe, potatoes are actually French. Baked beans from Britain. Oh yeah, they eat them every day. But if we don't know better, we may think they're actually from the UK originally. Corn, American corn, right? That's actually from Mexico. So it's important to know the origin of this, but more important, it is to know that we are all interconnected through food. So, what does this mean for what you are about to learn with my dear colleague Carolina Molina? I want you to think, at the beginning of this course, I want you to think, what does this mean to me in my culture? How does geography and globalization influence our traditions at different levels? How have international food trends in the past 30 or 40 years impacted our food preferences? What lies ahead for the food industry in an era of extreme globalization, and how will it affect our choices? How does food play a role in preserving our cultural identity? Are changes in food logistics and costs affecting our cultural identity compared to 20 or 40 years ago? And very important, do we consciously prioritize our culinary heritage even when prices for our preferred cultural foods are higher? Yes, socioeconomics of food. That's a very important factor in deciding how we feed ourselves. Friends, I have come to the end of my presentation, and I hope that you have enjoyed it, and we can talk more about it as you continue progressing with your course. Thank you very much.